Hi everyone, welcome back to the Lookout Point podcast. My name is Ebony and I'm the host of this podcast. This is so weird to be like looking into a camera. If you're new to this podcast, welcome. This is my first time uploading to YouTube this podcast, so I'm really excited to see what everyone has to say about it. I'm getting comfy. I have a pillow. So today it is episode 16 and we are discussing a story time, basically. It's actually how last year, my last show for 2022, I all of a sudden was rushed to hospital and had surgery that same night when I was actually supposed to be on stage performing a Christmas show. And yeah, let's just get in it. Like, I'm ready to start. So basically, I would consider myself a very healthy person. I eat well, sleep well, take care of my body. I'm a dancer, I'm fit, last year. So yeah, a year ago is December 29. I woke up at like 6 a.m. for my last performance of Christmas. And I just had stomach pain. And I was like, oh, it's period cramps, it's stress, I'm fine. Took an ibuprofen, didn't think much of it. Took the train into work, got to the theater, started doing my makeup and hair, and I get to 11 o'clock in the morning before the show. Like, the show's at 2 p.m. And I just say to my boss, I was like, hey, I'm not okay. And he's like, what's wrong? And I said, look, I don't know, but I can't breathe. Like, it hurts my stomach to breathe. I can't even drink water. I have had nothing to eat. I'm not okay. And he also agreed with me, like, oh, you're nervous, you're stressed. I was like, yeah, I thought so too, but I'm really not okay. All these staff members could see I was like pale, not okay. Like, they were like, oh, you look a bit strange. I was like, yeah, I feel horrible. And I'm a really like tough cookie. Like, I'm not one to ever say no and like to jump out of an opportunity, but like, this was insane. Like, I just said to myself, like, girl, I don't know what's wrong with you, but you've never been this like sick feeling. Like, it felt like something else. Like, I don't know what was going on at the time. I was like, what the heck? And the first thing everyone started saying around me is like, oh, she's pregnant for sure. And I'm like, girl, I'm not pregnant. I've taken tests. I'm fine. Like, I'm not pregnant. I get my period regularly. I'm fine. Also, not to be TMI, but I have like an IUD, like a spiral in, up there. So I was like, no, it's very rare that I'm pregnant. And I've been taking pregnancy tests, to be safe because, so no, wasn't that. I get to like a staff member. I was like, hey, look, like, I think it's time you send me to the hospital. And they were like, really? Like, is it that bad? They thought, oh, maybe she can't do the first show. Maybe she needs to vomit. And like, it felt like I had to puke all morning. And I was like, look, I've been trying to puke. Like, I feel it. Like, I'm like, something's not okay. After like, I'd say 20-30 minutes of sitting in a dressing room alone, I was screaming, holding onto my belly. Like, I never had this much pain in my life. I was like, something's not okay. Like, it's not okay. And finally someone came in, tried to give me more painkillers. I said, I can't even swallow water. I'm like crying. Like, I was in pain. And they figured out, okay, like, we'll tell the boss, we'll bring you to the hospital. I was like, do it now. Like, I was like, honestly almost screaming at them because I was really, I was in pain, guys. I can't even stress that enough. Like, I was in pain. So someone was really kind enough to leave the event, take me in their car and go to the hospital. And I was like, thank you so much. And mid-car ride, thankfully this woman had plastic bags in her car because I said, I'm going to puke my guts out. And she was like, okay. I grabbed a plastic bag and surely enough, I puked everything. But it was just water because I hadn't eaten since like the night before. I was in so much pain I could not eat. I felt so sick, And it was like clear water. So I was like, okay. And she asked me like, have you been drinking? I was like, no, I don't drink. Like, I never drink, especially back then. I was like, no, there's shows, I don't drink. Anyway, we get to the hospital. I'm like unconscious at this point, walking to this doctor, to this hospital. Like, I'm walking and she's like, are you okay? I'm like, no, I need to like, we were mid parking lot and I was just like this, like, I'm not okay. And anyway, we go to the hospital, we get in, we see the emergency room. They're like, okay, well, first she has to do a bladder, a urine test. So I go pee, they check my urine. They're like, oh, did you know you had like a little bladder infection about a month ago? I was like, yeah, I knew that. And they said, well, it didn't really heal properly, so maybe there's still some symptoms inside of you. I was like, okay, but I doubt it's that. I'm horrible. Like, I feel really shit. Not to swear on my channel, but I feel horrible. And they're like, okay, we'll go get some blood tests and stuff. I go see this doctor, and at this point, every time I would sit down and stand up, I would puke. So they gave me like these, not even buckets, like they were like mini cardboard like plates with a bit of a hole, like a little bit of a bowl. But they would like, I would throw up once, it was full. And I was like, do you have a bucket? Like, bro, give me a fucking bucket. Like, I was like, give me a bucket. This is like too much. So they gave me nothing, just these weird cardboard things. And every time I stood up, I would puke, basically. And I could not hold it back. And it started to turn green, like a dark green, like a dark green. Like not Shrek green, a green, like dark green, like forest. I'm basically puking everywhere over this hospital. And there's people in this emergency room that like don't even look that sick or injured. They're just like, yeah, I gotta go see the doctor. And then there's just me in this corner sweating, like coming in and out of consciousness, just like I look like the worst person you've ever seen at a hospital that you want to avoid. Like, you're like, don't go near them, like they have something. And everyone was just looking at me, and I was like, I'm too sick to care. Like, I was like, I don't care. I just looked so bad. I felt horrible. I didn't even care how I looked. I was like, girl, I'm about to die. I feel it. And then I see this doctor, because in Netherlands, they have a rule that, like, you can't just be submitted into emergency unless, like, you have blood wounds or something, like, severe cases. But considering I could still walk, they were like, yeah, but we need to check first, because maybe you're not as urgent as someone else, which makes sense. So I go to this doctor, like a GP in the hospital, and he goes, so what seems to be the problem today? And I just go, again, vomit. Like, he's like, okay. He just puts me on this bed, like, and he says, does this hurt your stomach? I was like, yes. Like, he literally would just, like, touch it a little bit. And I was like, yes, don't touch it, please. And they were like, okay. And he's like, okay, we're going to get some blood tests. He said, you know what? It's probably appendicitis. I was like, okay. They take some blood tests. And I tell them, by the way, like, blood tests, like, taking my blood, I get very, I'm not scared of it. My body just doesn't react well to, like, injections and especially blood taken out. So I told them, like, look, if I faint, it's normal. They're like, oh, okay. So I knew. I was like, yeah, look, if I'm, like, it's fine. I just have a really, like, sensitive, I guess, not immune system, but yeah, nervous system. Oh, guys, telling this story gives me butterflies. I'm so nervous. Oh, have a water. Have a sip. Oh my God. All right, we're back. And so, I'm getting my blood taken. Before that, I called my partner, my boyfriend at the time. And I told him, it's Stefan, but yeah, now we're engaged, so I call him boyfriend. But yeah, I call him and I say, hey, I'm not okay, I'm at the hospital. And he's like, what? Like, you're supposed to be on stage, what's going on? He's so confused. My parents at this point in Australia are asleep. Like, they're asleep, they can't do anything. And they're in Australia, I'm in the Netherlands, in Europe. What are they gonna do? So I just told him, I said, they'll find out when they wake up. He runs over from another city, like, by car. Thankfully, he could use his mum's car at the time. So I was like, oh, he can get here safe and quick. It was also, like, almost New Year, so I was like, it's, like, a busy time in the hospital. They were really stressed they wouldn't be able to operate on me because it's a busy time of year. But anyway, we'll get there. They're taking my blood, and my boyfriend comes in. I don't even see him. I'm so out of consciousness that he says my name. He's like, Ebony, and I'm like, oh, hi. And I just, like, faint again. Like, he's like, oh my God, I've never seen her like this, you know? At this point, we'd been dating, like, 4.5 months, so this was, like, a real test for him as well, just to see, like, how he did under pressure with me in a hospital and stuff. He did well. He was amazing. But yeah, it was so funny. Like, he just said, oh my God, you just, like, weren't sure of what was happening. You were like, hi, what's happening? Like, I was It was gone. And yeah, like after that, they took my blood and they said, like, okay, we'll bring her to a room so I could sleep because I was just like asleep basically. I was so tired. My body could not like keep myself awake, and I was really like, I felt like I was dying, let's be honest, because it is. A couple hours later, doctor comes in. Hi, girl, you've had like appendicitis. Your appendix has burst. We're gonna need to operate on you as soon as possible. I was like, okay. And he said, you can also just take an antibiotic and like it may come back in 3 years and you'll get the operation again. I was like, no, like no point. I've missed already one show. Like I don't feel good enough to do another show. I'm in no rush to like leave the hospital. I have nowhere to be. And the next month, like I was unemployed. So I was like, I'm fine. Let's do surgery. So I said, yep, let's do surgery. And they said, look, we hope we can do it by 9 p.m. tonight. It was like 4 p.m. at this point. I had been in pain from 6 a.m. till like, yeah, this time. I could not drink. I could not eat. I was dying. I looked so horrible. I had like the biggest bags. I was pale. Like I was still puking as well. Every minute I would get up, I would puke. So if I had to pee, like I needed to be wheelchaired around, like, cause yeah. And at one point, I remember I was getting wheelchaired to the bathroom with Stefan, and I had to pee really badly. And I'm in the wheelchair, and I just puke into these like cardboard things that they were giving me, and it overflowed onto the ground, onto my scarf, onto everything. And all these nurses were just like, yeah. And Stefan's like, well, can someone like help her? She needs like a bigger bucket. Like she's puking everywhere. And they're like, oh yeah, we'll clean it. Like they're so used to it, and I'm just like, bleh, bleh. Oh, I felt so guilty. Like you feel horrible when you can't control it. It's just coming out. Like it was so green, and they said it was green because the gallbladder was like getting infected, and it was infected, so it was getting worse. Um Anyway, fast forward a few hours, I kept coming in and out of consciousness. I was just lying down to breathe. I was physically in pain. Like, I could not even breathe without, like, cringing, because I was like, like, it felt horrible. Fast forward to 9 p.m., they say, all right, we're going to surgery. I was like, okay. And I was supposed to be doing a show right now, so I was like, huh. Anyway, I got into surgery. The surgery went well. They were really happy with it. And I guess the scariest part of all of this, like, I made it out okay, but the scariest part was that, like, I also, like, got told that they found liquid in my uterus. And I was like, what? Like, how do you even have, like, liquid in your, I was like, what? And they said, we don't even know why someone as healthy as you would get like appendicitis. They said it's not something that, it's not something that happens to everyone, but it can happen. Like I know a lot of dancers, they've had it. They're like, yeah, it's really random. Like it just picks you. It's like, okay, you're getting appendicitis today. And you're like, that's fun. So yeah, and I guess the moral of this story is coming back after dancing, like coming back dancing after having surgery was really scary. But the weirdest part was like 15 days after recovery, I was back home and, in bed. I was basically bed rest for a few weeks. I healed really quickly. Like I was walking after day 3 fully. And like I still couldn't really use my abdominals because I had cuts all over my stomach. But I was really good. Like the doctors were so impressed with my recovery. To the point where like they had to give me 8 painkillers a day, like 8 ibuprofens and, some painkillers. But I don't like taking tablets, and I took one the first day because I was in pain. So I said, yeah, let's take one. But I had to take 8, and I said, look, I don't like painkillers. Like, it makes me feel worse. And they said, then don't take them. So I didn't take them. And then day 2, day 3, and they're like, they just see all these pills stacking up next to my bed. They're like, you haven't been taking your meds? Like, I was like, no. And they go, oh, are you okay? I was like, I feel fine. I feel great. They were like, what? Like, what's wrong? And I was like, I'm fine. Like, I really didn't have pain besides the cuts, of course, like, coming up. I was like, oh, that hurts. But I wasn't, like, in pain. I just felt like I'd been cut open, which, nada, I was. It's hard to say, like, why these things happen. But I do know now, like, why I got appendicitis in a way. Because I really believe that, like, the universe or God like was trying to tell me I was not happy doing what I was doing. Um, and I listened because I already knew that was my last show like in this professional career, so I thought. And then 15 days later, universe and God decided to give me a second chance at dancing, and I got a call from the opera in France in Avignon, and they were like, "Hey, we remember you auditioned for us, and I was waitlisted, um, in fourth in line. Two people got picked to the company straight away. Another girl was waitlisted. I was fourth, and then that was the end of the audition. So I still made it all the way to the end, which was a very nice thing, you know. But they called me and they just said like, "Hi, one of our dancers is injured and we need someone for 6 months. Can you come in?" And I literally just said, "Hey, I've just come out of surgery like 15 days ago. I had appendicitis." And they were like, "Oh, that's fun." And they're like, "Well, that's fine. We don't care if you're not in shape right now. You have like 2 months to get back in shape." I was like, "Okay." So I thought about it, and actually Stefan said to me, like, "You should take it," because I was questioning whether or not, like, dancing was for me, or if it was just the company I was in, or if it was just, like, the styles I was doing. And the truth is, okay, I love to dance. It's not about that. Dancing is so beautiful. It's so fun. It can be really a great, like, event, and it can bring people together. It's beautiful. But I was also, like, not sure if I wanted to do it every day as a job. So I took the job, and that's when I started this podcast, which is even funnier because I think had I've not moved there, I would never have started this podcast. And this has been one of the best things I've ever started. I was so nervous to start this podcast of the Lookout Point, and I enjoy it so much. It's like therapeutic, it's relatable, and so many dancers come up to me and say, "I love your podcast." And I think, wow, I'm actually helping. Even if it's two people, I'm helping. And a lot of people aren't ready to just sit down and have a conversation with you. Like, that's just some people can't do that, and I understand. I'm that person. I can just sit and like talk for hours. Why do you think I have a podcast? So yeah, it's funny. Like, I'm really glad I did this, and I'm glad that I went to Avignon. What a beautiful like opera it was, and I had such a great experience there. And I knew after like 3 months that as much it was like such a great experience, and like I loved being in a company for my younger self, I knew that if I kept going for like a year or 2 years, I would be really depressed. And actually, like after a month of being there, at work I was fine, and then I'd get home and I was just so depressed with my life, and I was like, what's wrong with me? Like, why, like what happened? Like, you grow up with this dream and you think, oh my God, I'm going to achieve it and I'm going to just be so fulfilled and so happy. But no one ever discusses the fact that once you get there, maybe it was all like just in your head, or maybe it's not as amazing as you thought it would be. And like, it's just the saying of you can dream and you can be whatever you want to be. It can come true. It's like the reality of when it does come true. Is it right for you? For me, it wasn't right. And I know that I don't know, maybe in 5 years, it's time to be a dancer in a company again. I don't know. I can't predict the future, nor do I want to, because I like not knowing, and it's more interesting. But it's so liberating for me, because putting myself in situations like going to the south of France to be in a company like a nice opera, it was so good. Also for my like CV, to meet new people. I met some of like the most amazing people there. And I got to realize what it's like to be in like a company with like older people, younger people, people who've been there 15 years, people who've been there 1 year. It was so nice for me to experience that, because in the company here that I was in, it was all new people. So we were all like in our 20s, really young. This is going very off topic now, but anyway. So after that, yeah, when I moved to France and started with the company there, I had a first show like 2 months later after surgery, and I was so nervous before the show that I started getting like butterflies in my tummy that I never used to get before. And I realized it was because I hadn't been on stage since my surgery. And the last time I was in a dressing room, like I was in pain. So it was really scary going back on and being like, oh God, am I going to have something else happen to me, you know? And it's not to be like, I don't want to be all, I don't know the word, but I don't want to be like, oh, God did this to me because, but sometimes I feel like God made me have that appendicitis that day because it was the last show. He knew I was stressed and my body knew I was stressed, and like, it just felt like, it was time. Like it almost felt like it was a sign of like, you're not meant to do this. Like, look how unhappy you are. I'm going to show you by having your body have something. I don't know if that's what is actually what it was meant to be, but like, it felt like that. It felt like everything was saying, this is wrong. This is not for you. But then I had I had really good shows in the French company. Like, in France, it was amazing. We had amazing, like, fun times, tours. I had so much fun. And I would have loved to have stayed. It, like, they also would I can't talk, sorry. They also would have loved for me to stay, and, like, I loved the people. They were great. But I just knew, like, it wasn't going to make me happy. It wasn't going to make me feel fulfilled. And like, you just have a vibe. I spoke to a teacher yesterday that I used to have in class all the time, and she was one of the only people who really understand what I mean when I say I was just in the wrong place. Like, but wherever I went, I was in the wrong place, and I was trying to fit into a box that was no longer made for the person I am. And she really understood, and she said, like, even at 50, she still feels like that sometimes. So it's like, don't be afraid to shift your mindset and shift your dreams. If you want to be the dancer, like, go for it. I'm not saying you can't. I'm not saying it's a wrong path. It's just that for some of us, it's a dream and we can achieve it, but maybe it won't fulfill you. And some dreams are not meant to be your reality. They're just meant to be like a hopeful thing or a thing you can try to make yourself push those limits. But just because you've done them doesn't mean like you have to stick to them. Like, you can also try new dreams. And for me, like, I was like, when was the last time I was super truly happy? And I could not answer the question. And then after being in France, I told them, okay, I'm gonna go back to Rotterdam. I'm gonna try some new jobs. Like, I was like, I'll try anything at this point. So I had 3 months off. I had like some vacation. I was traveling a little bit with my partner, Stefan, which I love. And yeah, we had a great time, and I could just reflect. And after 3 months of dancing, I noticed I did not miss it anymore. So I said, oh wow, like, I don't miss dancing. Like, I miss moving, but I don't miss professional dancing. And it's a very big difference to having fun and doing work. So yeah, I was like, girl, I think it's time that you maybe take a break or take a step back and just have a simple life and just be happy with what you're doing. And then I came back to Rotterdam, where I live now, in the Netherlands, and the company I was with before actually needed a dancer just for extra stuff in the show for Christmas, so the same one I did last year. And I'm doing that now, and it's been really nice to come back and just, do something small, because I don't do too much. It's just like a chill piece and chill ballet for me, so it's really good. Not too much responsibility. I am a lot of second cast, so it's also that responsibility of like, oh, you have to know your work, girl. But it's been fun, and like, I get to see some new friends, meet old ones again, so it's good. And it's a really nice production. Like, wow, I love it. But going back and doing this, I said to myself, I'm so glad I don't do this every day, because doing it part-time is already enough for me. So it's really like, yeah, putting into perspective, like, sometimes things happen to you, they're a learning curve for you. And I think my appendicitis came at the time that I needed it to, because it was my body and my mind saying, this is not making you feel good. You never are sick. You are never in hospital. The last time I was in hospital was because I'd broken my arm off a horse when I was 6 years old, and then I was 21. So it's a very, like, I was in hospital for years. Like, yeah, I was like, okay, something's not right here. Like, what's happening? So sometimes in those situations of bad moments, you should reflect on why they happen or maybe what you can do about it. Yeah. I don't know if any of this makes sense to anyone else. Maybe for you, it's like, I don't know, nonsense. But for me, it makes a lot of sense. And I honestly also do this podcast for myself for peace of mind, but also to, of course, give you guys like maybe a filter to be like, oh my God, I'm not alone. She gets me. And you can just listen to it and think, oh, someone out there is feeling exactly my way, and I'm not stupid and I'm not weird. I'm just human and I'm allowed to feel these things. But the moral of the story of today is that, yeah, you can have surgery when you're meant to be in a show. You can get sick when you least expect it. You can have so many things go not your way. And a lot of them can be, like, I guess, learning curves for you, like learning challenges and learning tools to understand why they happen and maybe understand who you are as a person. I believe that everyone deserves to be happy. I know a lot of negative people in this world, and I choose not to be friends with them. Because I need positivity to thrive. I need positivity to just be, because if I start thinking negatively, everything around me collapses. And that's also, I think, why I got appendicitis, because I was so negative at that time. And a lot of people don't know this, but like for a year, no matter which company I was in, the companies are not the problem. It was me. I was actually depressed. I was angry. I had like anxiety, and I wasn't depressed as in like harming myself, but just mentally depressed. Like I was not okay. I saw a therapist for the first time in my life at 21 years old, you know, like that's huge. And I decided to go to therapy for myself. Like no one forced me. And it was honestly the best thing I ever did. I'm still healing. I'm still learning who I am. I'm no professional at, you know, life. God, no. I'm still figuring it out. And I'm also embarking on really new journeys, and I'm so happy because at the end of the day, dancing's great, but there's also life out of dancing, that if you just enjoy moving your body, that's fine. You don't have to do it professionally. You can be a professional mover, but you can also just be a mover who enjoys to move. So, yeah, keep moving, guys. Keep having fun. Be happy, please. This life's too short. My biggest fear would be to not try enough stuff before it's too late. So, yeah, that's all I've got to say for today. This episode's like 35 minutes long. Thank you so much for watching. This is my first YouTube podcast ever. I'm on Spotify with Lookout Pointe, and the Pointe is like a point shoe, so Pointe, not point, yeah. We have an Instagram account. I'm working on TikTok, but it's hard when there's no videos to upload. So maybe now that I have YouTube videos, we can upload them too. That would be nice. Yeah, I hope you guys have a great day, and stay positive, stay happy, do your best, and keep moving. Thanks for watching. All right. Bye, guys.